Well, that was sort of kind of what we expected. Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JessinoTweets. And we're doing our live player ratings for Arsenal 0, Liverpool 2. That is kind of what we expected, but I don't know, it feels a little gross. You know what I mean? You know how you feel? And I think also it's because we went 5 games without losing a game, and we won 5 games in a row. So it kind of deflates you a little bit, even though, let's keep it real, Liverpool are probably the best team in Europe right now. So to play the way that we did against them is great. You know, it feels good. But at the same time, I just can't help but feel like we lost a little bit of an opportunity there with some of our decision making in the final third and our lack of clinical edge. The game plan was good. The defending for every moment beyond the 2 goals that they scored was really good. Our buildup was good. Everything was fine, but we just shut off for 5 minutes and the game was done. And that's kind of how it goes at the highest level. And so I am a little bit, what's the word? I am disappointed. I have to be honest. I am a little bit disappointed because I was hoping that we could get a point, because it just puts so much pressure on that Aston Villa game now. But what I will say is that the response after we went 2-0 down for me was a good indicator of our resiliency and the fact that we're not just going to capitulate like we usually do. Because it could have went into that 4, 5, 6-0 that it usually does against Liverpool when we kind of capitulate at the back a little bit. But today, what I saw is that we had the intention to continue to play. Did we have the quality in the final third to really worry Liverpool the way that a top team should? No, but we know we're missing key components there that we won't have until we go through another cycle during the transfer window. But yeah, I feel a little bit deflated. I think it's just because I've been feeling so good for so long, and I haven't felt a loss in a while, you know, at the hands of Liverpool. So yeah, it doesn't feel good, but it feels like we played good, but it also feels like an opportunity missed for some reason because we played so well. But I don't know. Let's talk about it. I'm going to go ahead and bring Souls in. Hey, Souls.
Hey Jess, how you doing?
I'm deflated. Like, I just feel a little bit like, how do I explain it? It's not that I feel like we played shit, because I did see some of the obvious, desperate kind of negative people going into, oh no, well, now we're going to lose against Aston Villa. It's not a foregone conclusion that we lose to Aston Villa. And I think if we play the way that we did today against Aston Villa, we will beat them. But it feels like we played good enough, especially in those first 55 minutes, to, if we had just had a better pass, a better final ball, we probably could have gotten something. But then again, it is Liverpool and they do limit you to like 1 or 2 chances. And so when you get them, if you mess them up, what can you do, you know? But overall, how are you feeling about the performance and the result?
Oh, bit disappointed, I can't lie, just because of the way we played. And I know people are going to come on here and say we weren't expecting to win, blah blah blah, which I understand. I'm not saying I'm annoyed at them or I'm peed off or anything, but we could have won that. That's the annoying thing, because Odegaard should have slotted it rather than just smack it down the middle. Those opportunities, if we just were a bit more urgent and we went for those 50-50s, you know, when Martinelli crossed the ball in, we could have had a few more goals. But you know what it showed? Promise. That's one thing I will say. Let's turn a negative into some form of a positive. And it showed a bit of, you know, okay, if we get that striker and if we get a midfielder in, how much better can we be? Because today, I think today is where we missed a striker. as good as Lacazette is, I don't think we need his hold-up play anymore. Our midfield or our ability to create is so much better that we no longer need him to do it, and we just need a striker now. And that's why I'm more than happy to move away from his type and go and get someone who can turn those chances and just score, because that's what we missed today. So for me, it's positive signs. It's annoying that it's annoying because there was 2 goals that Ramsdale should have done better, and that header goal, whatever it was, could have done better again. But like, I'm not going to sit here and I don't know. I'm just a bit like, oh, it's a bit disappointing. That's how I'm feeling.
Yeah, I mean, we all know what positions we need to improve upon. I'm not going to say that I think that, I don't know. We'll talk about the whole Lacazette thing, because I'm not quite sure that I believe that we just like, I mean, I think what you're saying is we don't need him next season once we improve upon him, because we
Oh
definitely
yeah,
still need him this season. But
I mean, we've
there
not
was,
got a choice this season.
yeah, and I think the issue is that for the most part, beyond those 5 minutes where we just kind of fell asleep, if I took those out, a lot of our players would have gotten really good ratings. But that 5 minutes where we gave up those 2 goals really just kind of messed up a lot of I think, the feeling that I had around some of the players' ratings before that. But nevertheless, like, it doesn't destroy our chances of top 4 or anything like that, but it does put more pressure on us to make sure that we would have had this pressure anyway, really, but like, to go ahead and win against Aston Villa. Like, we have to go ahead and beat them. But I was saying earlier that our intention to continue to play and not to capitulate after we kind of got over those 2 goals that we gave up kind of shows me that we'll probably be able to just move on and play our game against Aston Villa and probably do just fine. But let's see what you guys are saying. Vitaliano says we're just not on their level. I mean, if anybody walked into that game thinking that we were going to be on the same level as Liverpool, I think is deluded. They're the best team in Europe right now. They have world-class players in almost every single position in their 11. We're nowhere near that. And we have a promising young team with talent that could potentially be at that level with some additions. But if anybody walked into that game and thought, I mean, I saw kind of a gross comment on Twitter about how, like, some of the players that we've been hyping got a humbling today. And I'm just like, so because they're not as good as the world-class 11 that we just played against, they're not good enough? I don't like that. Our team is developing and we aren't on their level. But I have to say, and I'll get to this on Arteta's rating, is I think tactically we matched them. I think we made 2 mistakes. Arteta really couldn't have changed that very much, but our intention and the way that we set up, had we had not turned off for those 5 minutes, I think we get something out of that game. You know, I think tactically we were set up to do really well against them. We just don't have the quality. And that doesn't mean we're shit. And that's not the conversation that I'm willing to have today. And I know that we're not going to do it. But some people just live
Oh no,
in
I've
that
seen it like
negativity, you know?
Ramsdale's not everything you've made him out to be, this, that, the other. And I'm like, you're telling me after one game, your opinions can go from, okay, this window's been good, to try and now slag all those players. I'm just like, I'm not having it. It's, for me, I understand the whole, it's not a free hit. I think Kenny Ken on Twitter puts it the best way I've heard. It's an opportunity, and it's an opportunity to show how far or how much progression we've actually made. And I think that's the best way to put it, because I don't think anyone's going into that game thinking, yeah, we should be smacking Liverpool up, or it's a guaranteed win, or, you know, we should be winning. I don't think anyone's going in like that. So for us to be so critical of them just because Ramsdale made a mistake, and other than that, he was fairly decent. I think his distribution was a little bit off, but I just can't believe people have gone complete 360 after this game. It's just mind-boggling to me.
But it's always on the knife edge, right? It's always like, okay, well, we're playing well, so we should be beating Liverpool at home. And yeah, we weren't perfect and we made mistakes, but Ramsdale has been excellent since he came in, and every goalkeeper makes mistakes, and he won't get a good rating today. But I just I don't get our like some of the fans in our fan base. Captain Joka says we didn't take our chances. I was robbed in my prediction. I'll hold my hands up. The Onyx Lens says someone had an Odegaard jersey on the Emirates pitch that wasn't our number 8. Okay, I guess you're just saying like Odegaard didn't perform very well. Ben Burke says difference between the team was the small margins. Odegaard not finishing his chance, Jota and Firmino finishing theirs. High Tech J says we played very well, but our mistakes were pathetic. I mean, I think they were kind of schoolboy mistakes. We'll talk about that. Nadim Mitrim says, I'm seeing sweeping tales on social media, but nothing Arteta did tactically lost us the game. I agree. Failing to capitalize on their mistake and then making a mistake let them score. Exactly. Stevie J says, feel the performance was encouraging, but Arteta's in-game management was poor. Should have made the Saka change earlier. But, I mean, we'll talk about it. I'm not sure that I think that I don't know. I don't know, you guys. I can't say that I feel the same about that. Let's see. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So we'll start off with Ramsdale. I think he had he didn't have much to do. That's the weird thing is that we didn't get peppered. They had like 3 chances and they scored 2 out of 3, so, but he could have done better for that first one. That I think that's the one that really stands out to me because it was your near post and you kind of just weren't, but everybody fell asleep. That's what's really weird about that chance is they had very slow buildup that didn't look like it was going to amount to anything. And Thiago, who, if you don't put anybody on him, he's going to kill you because he's such a good player when he's unmarked, and he just put in that really nice through ball. I don't know what Cedric was doing, but we were wide open. And if Ramsdale had been on his front post, we probably would have been okay. This is also like a kind of like a good, I wish more Arsenal players would do this. I think we take too much time to think about getting a wide open shot instead of just taking as hard of a shot as we possibly can. There were so many opportunities, not so many, but some of the opportunities that we had in the box, I felt like just try to get it on frame and see what happens. And when you do that and you take a half chance, sometimes you get a goal. And that was definitely a half chance that became a goal because we weren't ready, right? So Ramsdale could have done better for that. I thought he did good coming out and claiming crosses, and his distribution was actually very good into, Saka and Martinelli and through the center and all that kind of stuff. In the second goal, I feel like that was a full team collapse. Thomas Partey wins the ball, passes it to Gabriel. He doesn't get it out. They gain possession. It squirts out to the left somehow. Saka doesn't clear it. It bounces off of Robertson. Like, it was just very chaotic, and I could pretty much blame it on the entire team, but maybe Ramsdale could have done better there. So, I have to, because, the first goal, if you save that, we're probably in the game. I got to give Ramsdale like a 4.5 today. No, yeah, I feel so bad saying that, but like he was so good, but in the moment that we needed him to really the Alisson moment that he had, he didn't have it. If Alisson doesn't save that Odegaard chance, we have a different game. And he had his Alisson moment and he didn't get it. And so I have to give Ramsdale a 4.5. Like, I know that sounds really harsh, but it's the highest level. He was good at everything else, but if your goalkeeper if he can't mark his front post, then what are you going to do? Like, if he can't defend his front post, what are you going to do? So what do you think? Am I harsh?
I'm giving him a 5, but yeah, it's basically the same thing. The only reason is because you can't be beat on your near post. Not like that anyway. And the second goal, I won't blame too much on him because there was a series of things before that happened. So I'm not going to fully put. But to be beat that easily on your near post, I understand it's a powerful shot and etc. But as a keeper, you're always taught that, even if you're not a keeper, you hear, the coaching conversations to not be beaten near your near post. And even as a striker, you're not really encouraged to just blast it near post because the chances or the probabilities of scoring them goals should be very slim for you to even bother trying. But I think it was more positioning than him actually being beat. He always leaves too much of a gap, and he's not tight enough to that. And he kind of positions himself like a centre back, defending, blocking a shot more than a keeper trying to save a shot. So it's a bit of an odd one, really. But distribution was good. I'm not going to say it was perfect. There were times where he overhit his, especially to Martinelli. But that's me really nitpicking. But at this point, you know what? How good he is. If you don't, you're going to end up giving him 7 to 8 every single game unless you look for the little things. And today, those mistakes, they are a bit like for a keeper unforgivable for me. So I'm going to give him a 5. I hope it's just one of those where heads up, let's go again. And I just hope it doesn't it shouldn't, but I just hope it doesn't affect them.
So I have a question. Ian Swowish. I believe you're like a Chelsea fan or something like that. If you're not, please correct me. But what did Arteta do today in this specific game that meant that he's not quality enough to lead us into the Champions League? Like, what makes him not good enough based on today's game? Because up until we played the best team in Europe, we won 5 games in a row and 8 out of 10. He's leading the youngest team in the Premier League, potentially into the Champions League right now. So what about playing the best team in the world right now, or one of the best teams in the world, and losing makes Arteta not good enough and a quality manager and Champions League caliber? That's my question. I mean, Inzaghi lost to Liverpool. Is he not Champions League quality? They just got knocked out by Liverpool in the Champions League. So I just need more than just, it feels a little bit lazy just to say Arteta's not good enough because we lost to the best team in the world.
And I think
And it wasn't his fault.
well. Yeah, in the manner we lost. Like, I don't contribute individual mistakes, losing games to a manager. What I do contribute
Tactically,
is...
he seems inept. I need more than that, Ian. What did he do tactically? Like what? I just feel like this is kind of like the simple thing. We need more explanation than that on this channel, just a little bit. You know what I mean? But yeah,
because I'm trying to figure out like what he could have done. Like, I mean, even if we go into this sort of hypothetical world or hindsight world, I don't think if you asked any fan, what do you want him to do? That's exactly it. Like every fan, like even when we spoke yesterday, Jess, like we said, we want Xhaka to go a little bit deeper just so that there's a bit more defensive support. That's exactly what Xhaka did today. We asked Partey to just continue being Partey. Yeah, there's individual sort of lapses today in terms of just there weren't. I don't know.
It was
I'm
like
not going to say the
5
quality
minutes.
wasn't there, but it was just like finishings and like. But what, the whole point of coaching is to get you to that stage to take a shot or to score a goal. You can't come and put the ball in the net as well. That's up to you to make the right decision, to see the goalkeeper's position, to go either side of him or blast it down the middle. Like, Arteta can't give you everything. He can only get you into the box or how to play that or how to defensively set up. And then after that, it's your decisions, like how you then take the game on. You can't tell you Liverpool are going to do exactly this because the games don't work that way. You can't predict every movement of a game. So you have to use your own initiative. And today, it baffles me because people love to go on Arteta and go, oh, because we lost the game, it's all his fault. Nah, it's got to be his fault that Ramsdale got beaten near post. It's got to be his fault that no one stopped the cross from Robertson, that no one picked out Firmino's run. Like, sometimes I find it so, like, I'm going to say it, people are too tactically inept and stupid to understand the game. And I'm not saying that to Ian, I'm just saying that in general on Twitter, you just see Arteta shit, but then when you question them, you become Arteta sexual, you become an Arteta fanboy. That's the responses. Rather than give me tactical reasons to what would you do as a coach? Let's put it as that as a question.
Yeah. And so Z Gould asks, if you can't beat the big teams, how are you supposed to compete in the Champions League, Jess?
You need to be in the Champions League to get the quality.
But this is the non-thinking, like just the simple thinking, because you can't beat Liverpool and Man City because they're literally, so yeah, if we can't beat the big teams, Liverpool and Man City, because those are the only teams that we seem to not be able to beat. We beat Chelsea, we beat Man United. So beyond them, we can't beat them. So those are the two teams that you need to be able to beat to win the Champions League, not to be in it. We don't need to beat them to get to qualify for the Champions League or to play in it. The Premier League is the strongest league in the world. So we can compete against Lille, against Porto, against whatever teams are there, because we're probably stronger than those teams. I don't really understand this. If you can't beat Man City and Liverpool, the two best teams in the world, by a large gap, I mean, there is a gap between them and like the next team. Bayern is the only other team in the world that is even on their stratosphere. So I get what you're saying, but like, will we win the Champions League? No. Can we probably do something in our group? Absolutely. So let's make sure that there's levels to this and we're not just saying things because, oh, they never beat the big teams. We beat Manchester United before. We beat Chelsea before. Those are two big teams that play in the Champions League that you guys think can win games, right? So what's the difference between us going in there and doing something? You only need to be able to beat Manchester City and Liverpool to win the Champions League. I just don't understand. Anyways, so let's keep going. Cedric, I thought he was having a really good game. Was he culpable for any of the goals? I thought he fell asleep on the Thiago pass inside. Because didn't it split him and Ben White on that side? I have to look at it again, but it looked like he passed right in between the seam of Cedric and Ben White, and then they were in on goal. And so, but beyond that, I thought Cedric actually played really well. It's just, you know what I mean? Like, it's such a difficult one to call because it's like, okay, you fell asleep for 5 minutes potentially, but you had a really good game, you know? So I want you to actually go first on this one. I'll let you lead me.
I actually thought he was surprisingly very good defensively. I don't know what he did attackingly. I can't pick out a moment. So, I mean, again, this is like raw emotions. And a game like this, I tend to forget a lot of what's happened just because I'm really, really invested into these. So, but when I was watching it, I thought Cedric was superb. And to the point where they actually had to swap Mane and Diaz around. And even then it didn't work. And I know they scored 2 goals and one of them came on his side in terms of Robertson's cross into Firmino. Now, who's at fault? I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, just because I feel positionally there was a lot that could have been done for everyone. So I'm going to say a solid. I mean, overall, as an Arsenal rating, I'd probably give him a 6. But if I was to rate Cedric, I'd probably say 7, 8, because for his level, I was surprised because we all sat here saying he's probably going to get cooked. You know, he's going to get absolutely rinsed. And I can't think of a time where I was like, damn, you got shot like that. Okay. Because I could tell you Trent got ripped today, but I didn't see that happen to Cedric. Personally, I mean, I might be wrong, but I'd say like a 6, you know, a solid 6 today. And you know what? He's doing a very good job. I can't even lie. Like, I think for how bad we thought he'd be, I thought, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to say a 6.
He was like fine. Like, I think I'm okay with giving him a 6 as well. I don't think he was terrible. Like, I thought he did a good enough job keeping people quiet. He didn't really get exposed, but that one time. So, yeah, I think, look at all the weirdos coming out talking about we've been lucky with a little bit lucky at the moment. If you win 8 out of your 10 games, you're not lucky. Like, where are you guys coming out with these takes? It's like people were so desperate for us to lose against the best team in the world to come out with these silly takes. Sorry, but there you go. But yeah,
I can't believe it's come after a Liverpool loss. I'm sorry. Like,
I think some of these are just like rival fans that have been worrying. And like, if you're a Manchester United fan, you probably need to be worried about what's going on at your club and not be worried about Arsenal losing to Liverpool. You got smacked by Liverpool 5-0. You know, and you just went out of the Champions League last night pathetically against Atletico. So I don't really know where all the lip is coming from. I get it that we lost a game, but it's literally against the best team in the world. Relax. you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not being aggressive. Like, that's the thing. It's like, if I come back and, you know, and support my team, I'm aggressive, but this is my channel and we're talking about Arsenal. And if you don't like me coming back at you when you have takes that I don't think are necessarily, I think are disingenuous, really, then fair enough. You know, I think some of the commentary today is a little bit disingenuous. I have to be honest. But yeah, so I think 6 for Cedric is fine. I thought Ben White had a really good game. The funny thing about it is that we were able to be like to actually have a high line in the second half. And I thought, I mean, early on, I thought, ooh, we're going to get done. But the turn of pace for Ben White was actually really good. There were several times where they kicked it in behind and we were able to like corral it. And some of that was because of Ben White. His balls over the top to Saka were really good. The issue is like, it was really 5 minutes of madness that killed our game, right? So I'm actually going to give Ben White, I'm going to give him a 6.5, 7. It's really difficult for me to give them any higher than that because we lost the game and we gave up 2 goals. But genuinely, I think he was pretty good today. I can't really fault him for much of what happened back there. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think he handled himself well. Normally, there's a lot of collapses that happen, especially with early on when the pressure was very on us. And I think he alleviated a lot of that and started a lot of quick counters. And his partner, which we'll get on to, surprising. His distribution was very surprising today. But in terms of Ben White, I mean, this was a typical Ben White performance. Distribution was good. He broke the lines to help, like, alleviate part of your pressure. But I felt I think he dictated when to break the pressure quite good this game, where he allowed it at times where he put the ball under pressure to Partey, but at the right times. Normally what happens is we kind of panic and we pass it into it when that pass isn't on. But we played this sort of high risk, high reward situation and turnover. And I feel like Ben White went long when he needed to go long, but he also kind of passed the ball on to Cedric or Gabriel or Partey quite well, and he picked his moments, which is what for me is crucial against Liverpool, because you don't want to constantly be going over the top when the pass isn't on and losing, possession and turning possession over. So yeah, 6.5, 7. It's difficult because I don't really like giving high ratings when we've lost. I'm quite critical when we win, so it's a bit. But I will praise the players that deserve it individually,
Yeah.
and I can't fault Ben White for anything. And I think he was one of the standout performers today.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think he was probably like our top 3 best player today. The last thing I'll say on the whole Champions League thing, since rival fans want to talk about us in the Champions League and how we're going to compete. So you guys also agree that we'll be there next season. So you guys are concerned about how we'll do in the tournament. Fair enough. Since you guys are already putting us in there. If you guys are talking about how we're going to survive, we probably have already in your minds clinched top 4. So I'll take that. Everybody's is allowed to be here, but yeah, if I clap back, this is Jessica's channel. All right, so Gabriel. So some people feel like the second goal was Gabriel and Thomas Partey, or like Thomas Partey's fault. Like he got the ball and passed it to Gabriel, and then Gabriel kind of fell over and tried to get a foul, and then it squirted out to like Firmino or something. Beyond that, I didn't really see anything that he did wrong. It's so bad because it was like 5 minutes of madness, right? But I don't know. You could probably blame it on both of them. Let's just say that. But we gave Ben White like a 7, like a 6.5, 7. I feel like I'll give him something similar, 6.5. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it was bad. Like, I really don't. He didn't get done. What do you think?
Yeah, like I thought his distribution was quite good today, actually, quite surprisingly. He's one of those sloppy players for me. So it was good to see a bit of confidence trying to play the ball and not constantly just giving it back to Ben White. And he actually tried a few risky things and seen the openings for Martinelli a few times. So that was quite good and impressive. Cross-ball passes were quite good. And it's annoying because it was like you're saying, it's just a mad 5 minutes or a few moments of just,
Yeah.
and that happens. The problem is in a game like this, unless you've taken your chances and you're like 2-0 up, you can afford to. I mean, you can't really afford to switch off, but you can afford those silly moments. But the problem is when the game's at 0-0, you've got to be 100% focused, and that's all that happened. It was just a few minutes where Liverpool, and don't forget, it was their fresh players really. Salah came in this moment. There was a lot of, and this is the problem. Like when we talk about depth and having options, and that caused a lot of issues for us. So I've got to say, I'm going to give him less than Ben White because I just thought Ben White was just quite
He
a
was
bit
better
better today.
than, yeah, he
So I'll
was.
say if I give Ben White a 7, I'll give Gabriel a 6.5. Just
Yeah.
because I did think he just edged it for me.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Tierney, I actually thought this was a good Tierney performance. I feel like every time I say that, I feel like, is somebody going to come and get me? Because he's kind of been under the microscope, but I think defensively he was really good. I didn't see him get done. I was worried about, like, is he going to get done on that right-hand side? He really didn't. Ultimately, like, the defense was good except for them 5 minutes. It's so hard to rate them. The one thing I will say about Kieran Tierney, that I thought that there were several times where maybe he could have supported Martinelli better, because at a certain point, Liverpool caught on to having Trent isolated against Martinelli. And I just thought, instead of standing back for a back pass, maybe overlap. You know what I mean? But then it's like, is that worth it, knowing that they could just kick it down the pitch and, their forwards will get it? But I do think this is a really good Kieran Tierney performance. And I think this is another kind of reminder of why he's there, because he can kind of be a part of the big games and make the right decisions and be defensively sound and all those types of things. And I think he had a good performance. So I'm going to give Tierney a 7.5. I do think he was better than the rest. I really think this was a good Kieran Tierney performance. Like, I'll watch it back and maybe I'll feel differently, but I think in a game where some people thought that him and Cedric might be weak links over there playing up against their wide players, I think he was very good. So I'm going to give him a 7.5. And it could be a 7, probably should, but I'm giving him an extra half point because I think he's been under pressure lately, and I think he rose to that. So that's the reason for my extra half a point. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I kind of agree where he should have overlapped a few times. He should have tried to give a different sort of outlet to Martinelli because he was having a good time. He was enjoying it, and obviously they caught on to that in the second half and sort of told Trent to stop bombing forward as much as he was. So it would have been nice. I mean, you can blame this on Xhaka or Tierney. Either one of them should have been a little bit further up to ask the questions of their defence, and neither did, and it was very static in their movement, or very predictable, should we say. And against Liverpool, especially in the second half, you need to not be predictable because they are going to look at it, and Klopp isn't an idiot. Let's put it straight. He's going to look at, okay, why are we failing, or what's causing us problems? And it was the fact that, okay, Tierney stayed deep, Martinelli's having a good time because the overload, and Trent's not getting back in time. And then once he stayed back, I think this is maybe where Arteta could have said something. I don't know. But initiative could be used, and he should have overlapped a few more times. So just on that, I'd say a 6, just because attackingly I expect a bit more. But that's me just being a bit harsh. But overall, defensively, I don't think he wasn't troubled at all. That's the first time where I've looked on that side and gone, actually, we're stopping cross. Yeah, obviously, 1 or 2 crosses are going to come in. That's inevitable. But it wasn't a constant stream of, oh my God, like, stop Trent from crossing the ball. Like, it's basic. Just stop it. I wasn't thinking that. I was like, okay, Trent's not really having any joy today. So that's a positive. And obviously, Martinelli helped with that. But yeah, I'd say 6.5, I'd say, is the highest I'll go, just because I expected better movement from him.
Fair enough. Let's move on to the midfield. I think Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey were relatively flawless. Like, I don't think I remember them doing anything that I was like, ooh. There was some moments towards the end where like Thomas got caught on the ball like once, but you could tell that he was like really tired. Maybe Xhaka had, a moment where he passed it to Thomas Partey and it wasn't a great pass. But I thought our midfield battled well and didn't get overrun. But I'll do them individually just to make sure I give them both their own plaudits. Thomas Partey looked like a player that should be playing against Liverpool in the Champions League. That's what I'll say. He looked relatively unfazed. He didn't look worried on the ball. He was good in his distribution. He was good at breaking up play. For large parts of the game, he was alone in the midfield against Thiago and Fabinho, and he did a very good job. Thomas Partey is our best player because when we go up levels and we start playing against the best opposition, he still stands out. Whereas some of our younger players that are still developing, and this is just really just based on the fact that like one is really experienced and the other ones are still growing into themselves. But Thomas Partey is like our only player that can go up to similar levels of the highest level. Like when he played against Man City, he was much better than Rodri, much better, and I think that that's showing the type of players that we probably need to bring in the summer, players of Thomas Partey's quality, that can, when we get up to the games against Man City and Liverpool, they can play relatively the same as they've always played. And so I enjoyed watching Thomas Partey play today. Thought he was amazing. So I'm going to give him an 8, and I'm going to give Xhaka a 7.5. I do think that every time I watch Xhaka play in that role, I get more and more excited about what that player can look like when he's upgraded upon. But I think he had a really good game today. He didn't get exposed. He had one really good pass out to, I think it was Martinelli for that chance that Martinelli had at the very end where it should have been 2-1. That was a very good pass. But Xhaka played in some moments deeper in a position that he really is suited for. So it's no surprise that Xhaka was better today. He didn't have any moments of madness. We got out of that game with probably no injuries, no suspensions. Cool, it's fine. So Partey 8, Xhaka 7.5. They both played like grown-ups. And had we had a little bit more about us in the final third, I think all of their effort would not have went to waste.
100%. I think that pass from Partey at the beginning of the match, or near the beginning, to I think it was to Saka. That was divine. Like that's exactly what we need him to do: break the lines with the passes and keep the pressure on Liverpool. And even Granit Xhaka today, the more and more I look at that role, the more and more George's pick up of Awar makes more sense to me. When I look at it, because he is someone who can be a very good box to box and can do this role in terms of even defensively. So that would be probably more and more I'm favouring towards an Awar type coming in. But today, Granit Xhaka held his own, and he was good. He was really good. But Partey just showed that he can play with the big boys. And since his whole comments about 4 out of 10 and the turnaround from like sort of December, January, he's a man possessed. I don't know what's happened, but someone's either said something to him or he must have looked in the mirror, or I don't know what's happened, but something clicked in his head, and he has been phenomenal ever since. And long may it continue, because we need it. And it kind of, he covers for Xhaka's flaws as much as and he elevates Xhaka's game, because he's allowing Xhaka to not be a liability, to not be that defensive person who's going to get that yet. And I don't even think Xhaka got booked from memory. I don't think he even got a yellow card today, which normally you'd see him get a yellow or
Did
even a red.
anybody get a yellow card today? I don't think any yellow cards were given today for anybody. No, there was one for whoever celebrated, like Firmino, I think. But there was no yellow cards given today.
But like in a game like this, we get yellow cards. Like someone gets a red card in these games, especially with the way Liverpool press. So that in itself is really good. And obviously, I don't want to give anyone higher than a 7, but I'll give Partey a 7.5, and I'll give Xhaka a 7, just because Partey really stood to the competition. He really raised his level and looked like he can compete with Liverpool, and that's promising.
Yeah. And when we probably get to the conversations around the players that were in front of the midfield pivot, this is why I've always kind of said, no, you guys, I think Thomas Partey is probably our best player, is because he's already experienced. And we lack experience, and we just need some of our players to mature. And I think that they will. Because although I think some, especially at the tippy top end of the pitch, we weren't as clinical, we didn't have as good decision making, it will come. S, I'm right there with you. People were killing Partey. Now where are these people? You know, the Army Journey says Partey was our best player, man of the match. I think so as well. Happily Egg says Xhaka's performances have improved with confidence of the team. I agree. The Onyx Lens says we need an explosive and technical player next to Partey, an explosive striker. Yes, we do. I mean, I think the good thing is that, and I know we're so excited about watching the team progress, is that we know that these players are coming and we can't wait to see them. But in the meantime, I think some of the players that are playing in those positions are doing a decent job. Ben Burke says Partey needed to stay healthy and get a run of games. He's been great since. He did look really tired at the end of the game. So I'm hoping that he can get rested and get ready for the Aston Villa game, because we're going to really need him. But we're going to be playing away from home, and maybe we'll kind of play similarly to the way we played Wolves away from home, where we weren't really like all guns blazing, but we'll see. Ben Burke says there was a move where Tierney had it on the left, Martinelli was on the sideline, and Xhaka was in a position to go ahead sprinting into space against the CB, and he's not a threat there. He isn't a threat in that way, and that's how we know we need to improve on that position. But I don't want to take anything away from his. He did as much as he could in his capacity, if that makes sense. So yeah, let's move forward. Odegaard is an interesting one, because I don't think that he had. I think what they did was, the reason why Martinelli and Tierney had so much space on the other side was because they knew to lock down our right-hand side. This is the first time that Odegaard and Saka they didn't have that joy that they usually have, but we knew that Liverpool, they're too smart for that. They were never going to leave Odegaard and Saka open to just do whatever they wanted to do. And in the first half, I do feel like Odegaard found it difficult to find space, because they were really kind of plugging up that right-hand side and making it difficult for him to find those pockets. He was holding onto the ball a little bit too long, I think, and we just didn't have that same flow, because I also think Lacazette had a peripheral game. If Odegaard wasn't going to be able to get on the ball, we kind of needed Lacazette in there, and he didn't have the greatest game either. So I think Odegaard's biggest mistake in the game was not finishing that chance that they gave us. Liverpool were only going to give us 1-2 chances. And we had about, I would say, the Martinelli chance at the very end and the Martin Odegaard chance at the beginning of the second half were the only chances that they gave us. And we didn't get either. This one was great goalkeeping from Alisson, but ultimately, like, you got to put that away. It's on your left foot. They gave it to us. I thought maybe even Lacazette could have done better. Like a real striker goes out there and gets the ball and puts it in the back of the net. Doesn't pass it to Odegaard anyway. So I don't think this was a great Odegaard performance. I kind of felt like this might happen. Now we know what level Odegaard needs to go up to. He can be influential. And I mean, they showed how many chances he's created since November 27th. And he's one behind Trent Alexander-Arnold. That was before the game. So he's been really good against all the levels of opposition. But the one level that he needs to go up to is when we play against the really big teams and be able to influence the games. And when he gets the one chance, put away. So I'm going to give Odegaard a 4.5. Or no, I'm going to give him that's so harsh. I'm going to give him a 5. Because he did do some good, but ultimately that chance missed really he will have nightmares about that. And he just needs to go up that next level, and he will over time. What do you think about Odegaard?
Yeah, no, I agree. That chance, for me, he should have just slotted it rather than put his absolute every power into it. He should have seen that Alisson was kind of in the middle of the net, and either side would have done. And that was the only sort of mistake he made. the whole sort of, I agree, he was marked out of the game, which can work into our favours if we're smart with how we then distribute the ball. And I felt we kind of clocked early that they're trying to lock our right hand side, so everything was going through Martinelli, which is exactly what you want. If a team is setting up to stop a certain player or stop a certain, two players, go the opposite way. And obviously Odegaard and Saka are always going to play to one side, which left our left-hand side completely open to do whatever they wanted to do. And as long as we can kind of capitalize on those moments, it doesn't really matter like whether they're marked out. It's about playing to the effectiveness or to the detriment of their opposition. And obviously this is something which Saka's learning, and I think Odegaard will learn because it's the first time it's happened to him in the Premier League where teams are setting up to stop him. And it does take a few sort of games or a few, like maybe even half a season to kind of get to grips with how to overcome those situations. And I think it's also the team, how they can then support that player, because Barcelona do it really well. Like Messi knows going into a game, he's going to be man marked. He's going to be kind of double team, triple team. So how is he going to get out of it? How are Barcelona going to use that to their advantage? And that's just another learning curve, because Arteta's now got the predicament of, okay, now, unfortunately, to the betterment of Arsenal, we've got two players on the same side that are just world beaters. Like if you give them time and space, they're going to punish you. So how do we use that to really hone in? And how do we then use Partey or Cedric or Tomiyasu or, Lacazette to create space for the two? And that's all it's got to be. And how do we get them to be telepathic, one-touch football? How do we get that more effective? So it is a learning curve, and they are young and they will learn. Like Saka's learning, and I think he's overcome a lot of those situations. And even now, you sometimes forget he gets double teamed or triple teamed because of how effective he is. So it will come, and for me, it's just that chance. That chance gives me nightmares. Like I'm an advocate for Odegaard. I've backed him since day one, but I know he can do better. That's why I'm not annoyed at him, or I'm not like, this is why he should be sold. Like, because we've seen it. Like, look at the Watford finish. That's what he needed to do. Similar to that, just slot it into a corner. And I know he'll be looking at that and learning from it and being like, okay, you know what? And decision making, comes with experience. And it's not a technique thing. It's not something which he needs to learn. It's just more as he gets more experience, as he makes these mistakes, it'll automatically be in his head next time that actually I need to slot it and not just blast it every time. So yeah, I agree. I'd give him a 5 just because it wasn't an Odegaard game, but he still, do you know what? He still did his fundamentals. He still was the leader in the press. There was a time where he pressed Van Dijk into Alisson, and I was just like, you know what? This guy just works, doesn't he? He doesn't stop. He doesn't take a second to just. He doesn't. You never see him stroll around, and that's why like I'm a massive fan of his, and yeah, I'll give him a 5. It was an off game for him, but I just feel sorry for Villa. That's all I'm saying.
Poncho says, please let's not drill Saka and O. It was a learning curve for them both. And I do think that basically we learned that those two, they are going to rinse everybody beyond, maybe the top two teams. And if you go back to like the City game, and both of them were actually better in that game than they were in this one. So they're on the cusp of it. We need a striker. We need another midfielder. And we just need to not have a moment of madness. That's pretty much what it is.
A good striker, let's just say we got Vlahovic, just to explain the point. What it does is it makes the defenders see another threat. The problem with Lacazette, and I've said this as good as he is, and as much as he does for us, no one really sits there and goes, stop Lacazette, because you don't need to. He stops himself. He's not a goal threat. He's someone who can create a goal, but he's not. You're not going to sit there making a game plan on how to stop Lacazette. But let's say you put Vlahovic in that same situation. Van Dijk isn't going to be looking at Odegaard. He's going to be like, oh crap, I also need to make sure I'm not losing Vlahovic as a marker or Matip.
Yeah.
And then what that does, it automatically creates space because they've then got another thing to worry about. So I agree. Once the quality upgrades a little bit and we've got a central threat, it'll just mean that one extra man is off Odegaard and gone to whoever that striker may be. So yeah, I do think it's one of
It's
those. And
coming,
again,
you
yeah,
guys. It's
it's just
coming. It's painful because we want the team to be there now, but we are developing and we just have to be patient. But I think the fact that we felt like we could have done better and we had a chance shows where we are, because most of the time in these games it would just be so done. And there have been Liverpool fans in this chat that have said genuinely that we gave them a hard time, but equally they're in the pump of their progression. They're at the tip top of their level. Like I just think that we need to be realistic. Manib says, guys, can you please explain to me Laka cost 50 million, Pepe 70 million, Liverpool, Salah, like all their players basically cost less. All of those guys are better than our forwards, but cost less. It's called recruitment. It's better recruitment. We all know that Pepe was a poor recruitment choice. I think Pepe is very talented, but he was never right for the style, for the league. And I also don't think he has the mentality either, to be honest, to be a really good forward in this league. Lacazette's been here since 2016, 2017. He's been here for a while. It just is what it is at this point. But what you can look at is Saka, Martinelli, ESR, Odegaard, White, Ramsdale, all the players that we've bought over the last couple of windows, Thomas Partey, Gabriel, our recruitment is getting a lot better. But I almost feel like the Lacazette and Pepe thing is a little bit water under the bridge. That was the old recruitment team, the old hierarchy. So like Liverpool's recruitment has been top notch for like 7-8 years now. We've only been recruiting to this level, or even recruiting decently, for like 2 seasons. You have any thoughts on this?
yeah. I mean, you've pretty much summed it up perfectly. It's an old regime where we were recruiting to please the fans rather than what was actually going to work for Arsenal. And Lacazette, as soon as the whole links to Lacazette came out, you know what the whole. I mean, if you're on social media at the time, you'll know that the whole fan base was like, "Yeah, let's go get Lacazette." There was like proper hype behind him, and even the Pepe, the whole like look celebration and you know the whole rivalry between United fans and Arsenal fans because he had the choice of the two. So for me, it's just look, it's bad recruitment. But if you look at our more recent recruitment, Thomas Partey for £45 million, even Liverpool would pay that. When you look at Odegaard for 30 million, when you look at Ben White, okay, 50 million is quite a lot. But when you look at Ramsdale for 27 million, like he could be on the trajectory to do what Alisson's doing. And Alisson cost him nearly 50 to 60 million. And like Ben White could, I'm not saying he will be, but I'm just saying he could be as effective as Van Dijk. But they spent £75 million to get that. So yes, we've made mistakes, but I think every team's made mistakes. There's not every signing works out. And didn't Naby Keita cost him like £50 million or something? And he's
Yeah.
been virtually injured all the time. I know when he plays, he's been solid for them and he's been quite a top level player. But if you're looking at the grand scheme of things, for a £50 million player to play maybe 10 to 15 games a season isn't really good value for money. So you can look at, even they've got a few signings wrong, but recruitment is always going to be a tricky one. Some you get right, some you get wrong. And unfortunately on them too, we've overspent and we've got nowhere near the value back.
Yeah, for sure. Name block, this is a little bit of what I'm talking about. Like Odie is not ready yet, time to calm down the hype. I don't think anybody said that he was the best player in the world, better than all the players on Liverpool's team, best player in the Premier League. He's one of the best young players in the league, though. He's better than, I mean, would you replace him with anybody but a player that's on one of the top 2 teams in the league? This is what I'm saying is I'm not about to retract everything that I've said about our players over the last 10 games because they weren't better than world-class players on the best team in the world. So I'm still going to hype Odegaard. He's He's still an amazing
Yeah,
player. It
that's
doesn't
like
erase
me.
anything.
Yeah,
It
that's
doesn't
like me
erase
now saying
anything.
Trent's shit because Martinelli ripped him a few times. It's just a bit silly. Like, are we now going to say Trent's not the right back we thought he was because Martinelli ripped him? Like, it's just one game. Like, guys, come on, man. Like, do you know what? I'm actually disappointed in the fact. Forget the game for a second. I'm just disappointed with the reaction because like people forgetting it is Liverpool. Like everyone's talking about free hits. Everyone's talking about this, and now as soon as we lose, it's like all our players are shit again. Like it's like sometimes we just as a fan base we just need to chill.
Yeah, I just want to relax like a little bit. But equally, there's always people just kind of waiting for the loss to come. So there you go. There was the similar reaction against when we lost to Man City. So yeah, let's go ahead. And that's the last time we lost a game was when we lost against Man City. Newsflash in the league. So let's talk about. I guess we'll go Saka first. I'm not going to like overly protect him. I do think that he struggled today for similar reasons that Odegaard struggled, but I do think he was really culpable on that second goal. I just think if you clear that out, you clear your lines, then we don't, because I think that's what everybody expected him to do. And nobody was really expecting Andy Robertson to be running free into our box like that. That's no excuse for the defense just to click off. But Saka was culpable for that. And so there were some people calling for him to come off earlier and bring Pepe on. I'm not sure if that was the answer. To be honest, I'm not sure if Pepe really would have made that much of a difference earlier, even before the goals were scored. But I think he did present a threat. The thing is that Andy Robertson is just a really freaking good defender. And when you have Van Dijk right next to him, you're going to really struggle unless you have a good striker to play off of. And because Odegaard was not there to play off of Saka, he really just kind of suffered. That triangle really wasn't bumping the way that it should have been. And that's where the opportunities from Martinelli really came. If Martinelli finishes that chance at the end of the game, I think we feel differently. But when they shut down our right side, our left side has to capitalize. We really didn't do that. And I do think there's a striker issue here. So I'm going to give Saka a 5, just like what I gave. No, I'm going to give him a 4.5 because he was culpable for the goal. Very similar to Odegaard, just knock him another half point because he really should be clearing his lines there. Not a great game from Saka, but again, he's going to be fine. You know, I don't think that he was like terrible. I just don't think that he had a great game, you know, so there you go. What do you think?
Yeah, another one. You know what? It's tough because I think this is where maybe Arteta could have protected him a little bit in terms of just making a substitution for him a little bit early. I do think the chances would have been better for Pepe to come on to the second half and just to change the dynamic a little bit. And because obviously Saka, we know what he can do. And obviously Klopp is definitely looking at him and saying, we know what Saka's going to do. He's going to play this way. This is how we're going to stop him. And you need to just switch things up a bit. And I think this is where I will agree, where I just think he needs to be a bit more proactive in his substitutions, and it could have prevented the 2-0 maybe. But I don't know if Saka was tired or if it was just how good he was marked out. I just think, we know we're not at the quality of Liverpool just yet, and Saka's our best player, and he's learning to overcome, because Van Dijk, every time the ball came onto that right-hand side, Van Dijk was out quick to stop it. So you can tell how threatened they are and how scared they are of Saka doing something, of Odegaard doing something. Fabinho was out quick, and that's the thing. These things are going to take time to learn and adapt to. And it was, like you said, the left-hand side should have done a lot better. Martinelli had enough opportunities to do more and to finish his chances. So I'm going to say it's a 4 for me, or a 5. Actually, I'd give him the same as Odegaard. I'd say 5, just because, again, it's always good in hindsight because you're like, oh, we could have tried Pepe just to see what happened. But it's happened now. And it's kind of one of those where, let's see against Villa, if they have another stinker, then yeah, of course we can discuss that further. But it's one game in, what is it now, 8 games or something, that they've dropped complete stinkers. So he'll learn, and I'm sure he'll be back stronger.
Yeah, for sure. Eunice, I think, puts it really well. He says this game clarifies the difference between high quality finishers and upcoming talents. And I think most Arsenal fans have been pretty consistent on saying that our team is promising up and coming young players. I don't think the majority of us are out there saying, you know what, Saka's just as good as Salah. Nobody's saying that. We understand that there's levels to this game, and name blocked, I do understand, like, we haven't won against any of the big teams, but I just want you to rewind to a couple of seasons before when we were nicking wins against the bigger teams, but finishing in 8th with less points than we have now. And now we're beating the small teams and beating the teams that we have to beat, the teams in and around us, and we're in a top 4 race. So is it no progress or just not as much progress as you want? That's the question that I'm going to ask you.
Or is your expectation to win the league? Because for me, beating Liverpool consistently, City consistently, Chelsea consistently puts you in a title race, not in a top 4 race. So I just think people need to alter or understand what their expectations are first. And that's for me, because for a top 4, you just need to be consistent against, firstly, the teams outside of the top 6, which you have been, and then get maybe like a win at home against United. You can, whatever happens away, get a home at, against Spurs, whatever happens away. And one of the legs have to be like sort of a win, or a result at least. And then obviously against City, Liverpool and Chelsea, it's just that it's one of those that if you beat them, you put yourself in a title challenge.
Yeah, and as I get what you're saying, like Saka is literally rated our best player amongst our fan base. But isn't he one of our best players? I mean, on any given day, like there was a couple of games before where Saka was burning his defender and Martinelli looked dead on the other side. Like it switches every day. So, I mean, we love all of our players right now, and on any given day, one of them looks better than the other. So, I mean, I don't really care, like, you know what I mean? Because I know that Saka is a really good player and this game doesn't really change anything. So for me, so there you go. But I do think there was one player that did show levels today, which was Martinelli. He's a big game player. The way that he played against City, the way that he played against Liverpool this time around, he just knows what to do. And if he has green grass in front of him, he knows how to get past his defender. I've only really seen one defender pocket him, and oddly, that was Jed Spence.
He actually said he's harder to play against. It's funny that.
Yeah, it's weird. But Martinelli had an excellent game. He had a I'm here game, and he didn't really deserve to be on the losing team. He should be putting that ball in the back of the net. I do have to say that chance that he had at the end of the game, he should be putting that away. But the finishing is going to come. Finishing is going to come. He's an up and coming star, and just the way that he had Trent on skates was insane. Like he was just, and it was like they couldn't live with him. If he had had an overlap, I think he would have been able to do more. But I think because we were just so cautious, of the runs in behind, we couldn't really risk it. But man, Martinelli he was so good. Like he was so good. And he did exactly what we thought he was going to do, expose Trent Alexander-Arnold. And I know that Liverpool fans will say he was fine because Martinelli didn't really do anything. But let's just see what happens next season, because I think Martinelli is going to be unplayable. And this is when we start rating our young players and putting one above the other. One thing that I will say is that I do think Martinelli has that X factor that our other young players don't really have. And it's that weird X factor where it's like he can really get up for the big games and look just as good as anybody else on that pitch. And I think it's a mentality thing. I think, not to be crude, but I think it's a South American thing. A lot of South American players have that just gritty, I'm going to do it. And he was sensational today. And it's a shame. I feel very similarly to the way that I felt when we lost against Man City, that he didn't deserve to be on the losing team, but then he should have put that chance away, just similarly to how we burnt Cancelo and should have probably put the ball in the back of the net. The finishing is coming. Man, the guy is crazy, isn't he? I mean, I'm gonna give him an 8. I'm gonna give him an 8. Just up there with Thomas Partey. Did not deserve to be on the other end. Could have easily been on Liverpool. He was sensational. What else can I say? What do you think about Martinelli?
Yeah, he toasted Trent today. Like, yeah, I was like, damn, he's making Trent. Like, Trent's not a well, he's not even shit. He's one of the best right backs in the world, and whether you think he's a defensive good right back or not, or whether you rate his defensive side of his game or not, that's up to you to decide as an individual what your opinion is. But for me, he is up there with one of the best right backs in the world, and he probably at the end of his career become one of the best right backs in world football, and with how much he could potentially win. So for Martinelli to show his levels and just make him look silly, because he did, and there was a time where it was Thiago, Trent, and Henderson. I think it was all three of them tried to take the ball and none of them could touch it. It was phenomenal to see how good this player can be, and every time he toasted it, went to the bylines and put a good cross in, and just no one there. That's why I keep saying that when this striker comes in, you'll see these players their levels will just elevate naturally, because the assists will be in there, the goals will be in there, and just their contributions will look a lot better and inflated, because you finally got a number 9 who's putting those sort of crosses to use. And today, again, I'll keep saying it, today is when we missed a striker, and I felt we didn't really need what Lacazette does for us, and we just needed a goal scorer. We needed a killer that's just going to try and get that ball and just put it in the back of the net. And that today, he's another one. Like, he's. I know Klopp said things, but he needs to shut up and stay away. That's all I'm saying. Someone needs to punch those Buck Bunny, teeth in, fam. I don't like it when he talks about our players. Just shut up, stay focused. You got Diaz, let us have Martinelli, and I'm giving him an 8. I don't care. Like, an 8.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he was really good, and I think we spoke about it on the preview about Martinelli being some like Vinicius is pretty much like, when I look at Vinicius, I'm like, is that what Martinelli's going to be like? But I think he could be very similar, if not better than him. I just think he has something special. So we just have to let him cook. But
yeah, people need to remember Vinicius last season could have finished anything. Even if he gave him an open goal and all he had to do was roll the ball in, he'd still somehow miss.
That's true. His finishing came this season.
Yeah,
you're right.
He was that's what I always said. I go, he's an exciting. Because I remember I tweeted you remind me of Iwobi. He can do everything, but then as soon as he shoots, you're like, what the hell's wrong with you? But yeah, this season he's looking like CR7. When he first burst onto United, all the skill, trickery, flair, but he could also finish. Like, the shots were there, outside the box, inside the box, the runs he makes, and I'm like, you know what, phenomenal. And I see similar in Martinelli, but for me, Martinelli suits more of the central role still, but that'll come maybe later in his career. But at the moment, yeah, he can definitely take that trajectory. And next season, I do believe his finishing will be even better. He would have made those mistakes and he would have learned. And don't forget, I think people forget this is his comeback season, so there are going to be moments of jadiness and, not rustiness, but just getting back into the swing of things and playing week in, week out.
Wait, you don't think Martinelli could be as good as Vinicius? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Martinelli's going to the top of the game.
Who said that? Me or?
I don't know. He's like, this is where we gas our players too much, and I'm just like,
oh, I thought you said I was saying that. I was like, no,
I don't think so. I think Martinelli can be just as good as Vinicius. Like, I don't really see where the difference is, to be honest.
Yeah,
in terms of levels.
Yeah, Vinicius got it this season. Martinelli hasn't got it this season, but we know Martinelli can finish. So what's to stop him from becoming that level?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. Martinelli can be anything he wants to be right now. Let's see. S says Vinny is one of the top 5 wingers in the world right now. And I said that Martinelli can be as good as Vinicius when he gets his finishing together. Go back a year. Does anybody else remember when Benzema said that Vinny was playing against them because he could not finish? This season, he's top 5 wingers in the world because he got his finishing boots. And I think Vinicius is almost 22. He'll turn 22 this summer. He's 21 now. Martinelli is he still 19? He 20? He's still like
he's a year or two younger. I'm sure about that.
Yeah, so let's just let Martinelli cook. But yeah. Lacazette. I tweeted in the middle of the game that I thought that I didn't like his body language. I felt we had went down 2-0 and ESR was trying to make things happen. This was like right after we went down 2-0 and ESR was trying to make things happen, and there was a ball that was like slipped back to Lacazette and he couldn't get his feet right and he just kind of did one of those, and I just felt like that was kind of his vibe the entire day. Like he couldn't be asked to play against Liverpool today, and he did exactly what I thought he would do in this game, which is disappear. And he always disappears against Liverpool. He never shows up against Liverpool for some reason. It's like it's the worst case scenario for him. And so, yeah, he's going to really have to make this up against Aston Villa, come up with some goals, because that was just not good enough. I thought he was the worst player on the pitch, and it wasn't even close because he just didn't add anything. And where I can give Odegaard, some leeway because he's young, and Fabinho was man marking him. Was anybody marking Lacazette? Really? Like, you know what I mean? Like it just, it didn't really make sense. His performance was so poor, and I do think that was a big reason why we just weren't able to do anything in the final third, because he wasn't really there. And it wasn't like you could even, there was moments where Martinelli was like, it's when he did that really, like, I'm sure there'll be compilations of it, that run against Trent Alexander-Arnold, and he megged somebody as well. I think it was Henderson. And it was like even Lacazette was watching Martinelli play, and he crossed it and it just went to a Liverpool player and they just cleared it out. And I'm just like, a really good striker would be waiting on that ball. We don't crash the box. We don't go for just half chances. We don't put pressure on the defenders. It's just very like Lacazette can be useful against everybody but the top teams. That's the reality. Like he didn't show up today. And we were even like at home. So he has a lot of making up to do against Aston Villa because we have to win that game. But that was a poor performance by Lacazette. And I don't know if he was tired or what, but he needs to get off it. So we know we need a striker, but it can't come quick enough. We need somebody younger and just better. So I'm going to give Lacazette a 4. Poor day out. What do you think?
Yes, games like I know it's one game because he has been pretty good for us over the last sort of 2-3 months. But it's games like this where I'm like, I don't know whether I want to give him a contract because of how much impact will he make, because he does. Firstly, he needs a bit of time to get into a game, and then it's whether he then continues to actually do something. And today, the thing is, I don't know whether it's him being tired because it's 3 games on. Well, it will be 3 games on the bounce. But I'll be honest, like, I don't know. Like, it's tough because I just don't know what he did. Like, that's the problem. Like, I don't, because those moments where Martinelli crossed the ball in, or even Saka got an opportunity where I'm just like, where's the striker? Like, where's the number 9? Or where is anyone? And even if he's in the box, what he doesn't do, he doesn't try and challenge the defender or get that defender to panic. He just kind of, if the ball comes to me, I'll try, not like try and barge the player, get in front of the defender to try and get that ball in, which is what Aubameyang was doing, and I criticised heavily because it's like every single time there was a crossing opportunity, Aubameyang went from one defender behind, and I was like, what did you think was going to happen? There's Dan Burns in front of you. I can't remember who else Brighton had there. And I'm like, you're trying to get the cross over 3 defenders just to come to you, rather than you trying to push in and get the ball first. And that's why I get disappointed in Lacazette. He just doesn't impose himself in the box. It's one of those where, and that's the problem, and that's why he doesn't get gold. And that's why I'm gonna sit and say, yeah, a 4. It's like I can work rate's good and trying to create opportunities is good, but what I can't do when you're meant to be a physical striker is not challenge Van Dijk to the ball, not challenge your Matip to the ball, and make them known that you are here. At no point did if you ask Van Dijk, did Lacazette play? He's probably going to be like, who? Because he's going to be like, I don't even know who you're talking about here, because he didn't challenge him once, and that's the disappointing thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no central presence, and we know that that's coming. Like, we know it's coming, but in games like this, it will frustrate because, again, we just need that, and so I don't think it'll hurt us against the Villas and, the Brightons and that type of teams, but against these top teams, it's going to be difficult. He might struggle against Chelsea as well. So that's something that we have to really think about. Yeah, with Rudiger and Thiago, and you know what I mean? Like, it will be a struggle. But the reason why, like, Lacazette and Odegaard and Saka and them have gotten such low marks is just because, like, quite literally, like, they could have made the difference between us winning and losing that game if they had taken some of their chances. And the decision making in the final third for me just wasn't good enough. And our intent was okay, but like, our buildup was so good. That's one thing that has really gotten better this season, is how we get from defense to attack is not really the issue. It's once we get into the final third, how can we impose ourselves on them? How can we get into the 1v1 scenarios? And when we get past them, what do we do with the ball? And I just think that too many times today we made the wrong decisions, or we just were not even available to make a decision. And so there you go. Like, and we only had like 3 chances. So I'm not saying like we had a bunch, but when you play against these top level teams, you kind of have to be perfect. And we weren't that today. And I expect more from those players. I do, because I think they're good. So let's talk about Emile Smith-Rowe. There was a question here from Poncho. ESR obviously came on to replace Odegaard, who I think that was like kind of like, okay, we just need to go ahead and get Odegaard off. He's not having a great game and let's let him rest. But ESR came on, and Poncho says, am I the only one who's worried about ESR's future? Because I don't see where he fits into this team unless he's as a squad player. I think this is something that is more a worry because we don't have Europe. This is why getting Europe is so important, because we won't worry about Emile Smith-Rowe if we have other games for him to play. He's a starter, but he just happens to be the 12th starter, if that makes sense. Like, he's not a bench player. I don't think he's an impact sub. I think he easily could, start games for us. And I think he'll start against Aston Villa. Whether that's for Odegaard, I don't think it will be Odegaard, by the way, but whether it's for Odegaard or Martinelli, I think he will start. Potentially even maybe for Bukayo Saka, you could put Martinelli on the right and put ESR on the left, so there will be opportunities for him, but I just don't think we know what his position is yet. I think that's kind of where we're at with him. And because he keeps getting ill and has these little like injuries, it's difficult to get him into the game. But do you worry about ESR? I think once we have Europe, some of these worries about the young players not, fitting in will kind of go away on their own.
100%. I'm not worried at all, because it's just unfortunate. Martinelli and ESR are probably our 12th starters. It's just whoever's having the better run is going to start inevitably. That it's just unfortunate. I'm not saying it's fair, but it's the same with Tomiyasu. Like, Tomiyasu's going to have a hard time getting back into the team if Cedric is playing to the level he's playing at. Now, it doesn't mean one is better than the other, or one deserves to start over the other. It's just, I think Arteta stopped playing players by name, but by form. And unless you're like grabbing that opportunity, like for example, Martinelli got an opportunity and he started scoring like consistently. And it meant that ESR had to earn his spot back. But the problem was Martinelli scored, got substituted off for ESR, and then ESR scored. It wasn't like, oh, Martinelli dropped a stinker, ESR come on and just stole the show. It was just, oh, actually, their stats are even. And that's the problem. And it's a good problem to have because they're going to push each other. If Martinelli's form drops off or touch wood, it doesn't happen, but if he got ill or injured, then it's ESR's opportunity to try and take that position back. And for me, that's all it is. But of course, when next season, hopefully we get some form of European competition, it's just going to mean that, ESR is going to get an opportunity. It's going to mean, if Saliba's back, Saliba's going to get an opportunity. For example, Matt Turner's going to get an opportunity. But it's just, and obviously Tavares, Lokonga, because your squad is going to be used. And that's why I don't worry, because it's just competition for places. And that's the way I see it. And even if you look at Man City, I don't think they're worrying about, Gundogan wanting to leave or Sterling wanting to leave or Mahrez wanting to leave or, whoever else, like, because they're constantly being rotated. It's just the better you get, the better your squads get. I don't think, even if you look at Liverpool today, for example, like Luis Diaz at the moment is getting a run, but are you going to sit there and go, Diego Jota's going to be thinking of leaving? No. Or Firmino's thinking of leaving? No. It's just the better you get, the more squad you need. That's all.
Yeah, I think it's just a symptom of not having Europe. Arteta said that I don't think this result reflects the performance of the team. I think from box to box, we were the better team. Unfortunately, games are won in the boxes, and that was the critical difference to get something out of the game today. So you can see why we were desperate to get Vlahovic in the January window, because not having that killer in the box makes a huge difference. And we also had some lapses in our own box. So I think we're fine. Like, obviously the narrative on Twitter right now and in social spaces is that, oh, if we played in a top 6 mini league, we'd be at the bottom. Well, we play more games against the teams outside of the big 6 than inside. And so that's why we're 4th and we're not sitting somewhere at the bottom of the league. I get that we want to micromanage everything and compartmentalize it so that we can be mad about this, even though the bigger picture is that we're on track to finishing in the top 4. But this is just not something that I'm going to really lose that much sleep over. I'm more concerned about the Aston Villa game right now. That's just me, but that's not to say that I'm not disappointed. Obviously I am. But look, I guess with ESR, I will say that I thought that he played really well when he came on. I think he made a difference. I think he was unfortunate to come on literally right after we got the second goal scored, because it seemed like some of the players were deflated. And so his energy wasn't being, received. But so I want to give ESR a 6.5. I thought he was just fair enough coming on. And I don't think Pepe and Nketiah really need any sort of, because they didn't really do anything. Let's keep it 100. Are you okay with giving Emile Smith-Rowe a 6.5, or you want to do something else?
Oh, I kind of agree. I think out of the 3 substitutions, he tried to make an impact. I don't recall Pep Nketiah had no time. I think he only had like 2 or 3 minutes, and then plus whatever added time was. So it's virtually impossible for a striker to really make a big impact. But Pepe and ESR had enough time to try and impact the game. And ESR for me just looked positive. He looked re-energized. He looked like the ESR from sort of the beginning of the season, and that sort of good run of form before Martinelli took his spot. So it's positive signs. And like you said, I'm not saying there's question mark. Martinelli deserves to start if he's fit. You can question whether I don't personally think anyone's going to be sort of rotated, because we don't have a game the following weekend. So I think Arteta's going to go into this. The only player I would is Lacazette. So you can bring ESR in, Lacazette in, and then take Lacazette off and then bring Martinelli into the middle. That might work. But it's just unfortunate, because I'd love to just have another person to play on the pitch, because it would just be ESR. But it's unfortunate that his position's being occupied by someone who's basically made that position somewhat of his own at the moment. But yeah, positive. Could have got a goal. If the team was a bit more up for it, we could have possibly stolen a goal. But it was just one of those where that's something we're going to learn, and the mentality will switch. Even though it's 2-0, let's just keep going and stop being sort of deflated by these moments. So yeah, it's a learning curve for me.
For sure. So Arteta, I think this is where if you let your own, I just hate to say it, but if you are just kind of like, well, we lost because of, and then that means it's Arteta's fault. I think we need to dig a little bit deeper. Usually I do say like, okay, if we win, it's because of the manager, and if we lose, it's because of the manager. But I can't see really, okay, is it Arteta's fault that Martin Odegaard misses that chance? I don't think so. And then I also don't think it's his fault that we had 5 minutes of madness. Now, there's some people that feel like, well, if we had put Pepe in, earlier, then maybe something would have changed. Possibly, maybe he clears his lines and where Saka didn't for that second goal. But I still think that Arteta set us up in a way where had we had just been more clinical or just had better players, we just weren't as good as them, we would have probably done better. So for me, like Arteta gets an 8. I can kind of see if you put in Pepe, maybe something would have happened. Pepe wasn't doing nothing against Andy Robertson and Virgil van Dijk as far as I'm concerned. I think he might have looked cooler and he might have been taking on men more, but I don't see that. I think Pepe is very good against low-level players. The lowest end of the Premier League, he can get something out of them. I get that Pepe, dribbled past Virgil van Dijk 2 years ago, but that's not the Pepe that we're talking about. So beyond potentially Pepe coming on and clearing his lines and Saka being not so great, I think we had all the opportunity to make that game differently based on the way that Arteta set up the team. I can't see how he set it up poorly. I think in general, beyond that 5 minutes of madness, the team played well and we weren't exposed either. Like we really weren't. Like we fell asleep. So it's kind of like, is it his fault that they fell asleep? I don't know. So Arteta gets an 8 for me. He earns his money really on at the game against Aston Villa. He has to figure out a way to get a fully energized and focused team out there to beat Villa. And I think with some of the players that looked a little leggy, that might be difficult. So he has to make the right decisions. So whether that's playing ESR, and maybe dropping Saka, maybe that's a decision that he has to make, but I can't see how Arteta's culpable for this today. So yeah, he gets an 8 for me. What do you think?
No, I agree. I think a lot of people see, oh, we lost a game, must be Arteta's fault, rather than looking at the game and looking at how we lost. And it was individual errors that, some moments of lapses of concentration that cost us the game, not something he did tactically. It wasn't like, he decided this is the game to play ESR as a false 9 and, put Partey as an attacking 10 and Odegaard in the base. Like he didn't Galaxy brain it. He didn't do anything stupid. He didn't change something. All he did was ask Xhaka to be a little bit more defensive just to help out with the pressure. And that's the right thing to do. If you're looking at the way the team was set up, you don't go a full half playing good football and like for 60-ish minutes, 50 to 60 minutes, playing solid football to then collapse for 5 minutes and then blame that entire thing on the manager, because opportunities were created. We looked good. We were competitive. At points of that game, for a large proportion of that game, we felt we could have won. It's just on the final sort of 30 to 40 minutes, we felt, damn, like we let ourselves down here. And, I think even when it comes to it in hindsight, yeah, could have put Pepe on earlier, yeah. But in hindsight, that could have lost us the game because Pepe is a defensive liability. So, it's just one of those where I think he's, regardless, people are going to blame him, even if we narrowly lost this. And so yeah, for me, I don't know. I don't know what I can say that Arteta did wrong, because we don't really have the options off the bench that are like game changing. So it's just one of those where a little bit better quality or just a killer up top minimum. Like even if we played with Xhaka, Partey, Odegaard, but had a striker, I felt that would have been the difference, and we would be looking at this game saying actually Arteta got it correct. But it was just we were missing a player today. So that's all I'm going to say. I don't want to bash the team too much or go in on Lacazette too much, because it is one of those off performances. We've not really said that Lacazette's had crappy performances consistently. So at least there's that. And you've got to think about Liverpool are a world class team. They are one of the best teams in the world. Whether you think the number 1, number 2, number 3, they are top
They're numbered. Yeah, they're right now. They're like number 1.
Yeah,
like
that's what I'm saying. Like
literally
even
right
if
now, like it's
your
crazy.
their worst rating would be top 3. Do you know what I mean? Like they are in
Yeah,
the top. Like no questions asked. They're top 3. You know, you can debate whether they're 1, 2, or 3, but they are definitely there. And to play against that, and to actually be toe to toe quite well against them, other than the 5 minutes,
they didn't
I
outplay
can't
us.
fault them.
That's the funny thing is they
That yeah,
literally can't say that they outplayed us. It was 5 minutes where they made a mistake. We didn't capitalize on it. We made 2 mistakes and they capitalized on both. We also could have had a goal at the very end. Martinelli should be putting that in the back of the net. It just, there wasn't much in it. You know what I mean? And so and here's the thing, Manib says it kind of right? Fine margins cost us. It's that simple. Overall, we played well. I see progress, but as a fan, I want more. I demand more. That is kind of the story, isn't it? You know, we want more. Arsenal Football Club should be able to compete with the best of the best. But this team, I do not expect to beat Liverpool and all that kind of stuff. And I get that there's statistics going around that we haven't beat a single one of the top 6 teams. La 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 la, all this kind of stuff. Whatever. Like, I mean, we beat West Ham and we beat Spurs. I know that ain't shit because neither of those teams are really that good. But I can't get mad about it. I really can't. Like, I really can't. Now Aston Villa, if we don't beat them, I'm gonna be on here flailing around, like for real. But any last like words on this, you know, before we just kind of get on out of here? I think you know, this is kind of expected, but it always feels different once you see the game.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's just one of those. It's disappointing, just because I thought we played really well up until obviously the 2 goals went in. Even after that, we didn't respond badly. It was kind of the game was over, you know. And when it's 2-0, it's very rare that a 2-0 deficit, gets overturned against Liverpool, especially when they're this high. And don't forget, people need to remember they're highly, highly motivated because City's just dropped points. This is a game they had in hand on City. So if they had dropped further points, they would have been like 4 points behind going into the Liverpool City game. But now they're only a point behind, so they needed this win. And to play a highly motivated team that's also world class, that also had Salah and Firmino to bring off the bench. I mean, Salah's better than any of our players. So let alone, bringing him on, when the team is tired and maybe the concentration levels aren't so high, it's going to be difficult. Like, they're a world-class team. So, and we were competitive. We were better. We didn't just roll over. We didn't get rolled over. That's the main thing for me. And we know that once we get, the qualities that we're hoping to get in the summer, what can't we do? Like, what the potential's there and the opportunities were there, and we can see it. With a better striker, we probably would have been 1 or 2-0 up before they even scored 2. So that's the positives. That's the way I look at it, and it is progression for me. I know people say it's a 2-0 loss though, but you've got to look at how we lost and the way we played, and we created chances. We caused them a lot of trouble, and for me, that's the positive. And it's one of those, unless we have a complete collapse till the end of the season, we're showing signs of resilience, signs of progression, and we're showing that once we get top four, or if we get top four, we're going to get Champions League quality players, and we're going to be closing the gap even more. So for me, look, that's what I'll leave it at. It is signs. It's disappointing. It's deflating, but they played well, and that's all we can ask for.
There you go. We will see what happens. Obviously, we have a game coming quick. Is it Saturday?
Yeah, Saturday. Well, for UK time, will be 12:30.
Okay,
So it's a
so we have
lunchtime kickoff.
Game on Saturday. Going to be really difficult away from home. Early game as well. I'm hearing that Arteta went in about the scheduling from the Premier League, putting that Manchester or that Chelsea game right there before the Man United game. We're gonna have to suck it up. I mean, what are we gonna do at this point? Unless they could move Manchester United's game back, like you said, because they're no longer in the Champions League. But I doubt they'll do that because it gives us a little bit of an advantage, and nobody wants to do that. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But one game at a time. I'm gonna send you this screenshot of Lacazette and where he was when Martinelli got into the box. It's actually criminal that he wasn't anywhere near like getting to the 6 to kick it in the back of the net. But thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Tomorrow I will do a match preview / download of this game and talk about Aston Villa ahead of the weekend. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. If you got bit today because I was feeling a little feisty, I'm sorry. You're still welcome here, but it's my house. Like, you know what I mean? But you are still welcome here, obviously. And I will see you guys in the next one. Oh, yeah, make sure that you guys follow Souls on Twitter at Gunnar Souls and me at Jacinio Tweets. See you guys next time. Bye, guys.